You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagel, and Taylor Polindo.
And I started going to therapy again.
Okay. Did we drive you there?
Partially, but also the subject of today, the funny things that kids say, they're great. But sometimes the things they say can send you places.
So that's a different podcast. That's the Children
Entirely.
in Dark Places podcast.
This is Children in Light, Happy Places today.
I remember one time many years ago, our daughter turned to me and she was elementary age. And she said, I just want you to know that when I'm an adult, I will discipline my children. I was like, just so you're commenting that I don't discipline you at all. You just run wild.
Wait, so she wanted more discipline or she wanted her siblings disciplined more?
I don't know. She just said there's no discipline in the house. Wow. So she goes, I will discipline my children. Just saying.
When she has kids, we should get that quoted on a shirt and just wear it to her baby shower.
Oh my gosh. Some very good lessons there from the children.
How are you getting ready for holidays and such?
Just not.
I don't
Haven't
think
done
I
it.
am ready. Yeah. I think not ready. How are you ready?
I'm making bread. Glad to be with my siblings. We haven't done Thanksgiving together in a while.
That's great. Okay. So then that means you're cooking?
No, I'm making bread. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Tay? Are you cooking Thanksgiving?
I ordered pies from a little local friend of ours, and they make the best pie I've literally ever had. And that's from
Okay,
someone
great.
who does not like pies.
Oh my gosh.
And my husband will be making the turkeys. It's his first year making the turkeys. So pressure is on.
Pressure is on. And how will that turkey be made? Traditional
He's-
roasting?
No, he's going to sous vide 3 turkeys.
Okay.
It's going to be good.
No idea how it's going to go.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you? Where are you at the holidays?
I will be making the dinner for my
Okay.
family and a friend. Traditional roasting method.
Okay.
But I will tell you one thing that happened a couple of years ago that is one of my favorite Thanksgiving stories. My daughter and my sister's daughter were making Thanksgiving together. And they were working together, but people kept interrupting them in the kitchen because the whole family was there. And they were trying to work together and get everything done, but they really wanted to work together because they're very close. So at one point, they both come rushing to me and my sister and they say, we have a terrible problem. And I said, what's the problem? And they said, we both added butter to the stuffing. We didn't talk. So now there's twice as much butter. So we all looked at each other and my sister and I immediately agreed and said, we're telling no one. Forget it. They don't come here to lose weight. This is not an American holiday that's dieting. So we decided the 4 of us would just keep it as a pact. So then we're sitting at the table and we have this big long table with a lot of family. And one by one, you hear people say, you know what? I don't know what it is this year, but this stuffing is incredible. And we were all looking, just locking eyes with each other, just looking over. And I would just say, that's so great. The girls just did an incredible job.
I love it.
Always more butter.
Yes. Love it.
So tonight we're going to talk about things that little people say and why they say them and some fun research behind that. So I thought we would start with each sharing one of our favorite moments of something funny.
All right. So I thought of something that I said as a kid. Sometimes people will say something in a family and then it becomes the family joke for decades. Years ago, when I was probably in first grade, my parents used to always complain that our gardener was paid by the hour and was very slow. They didn't like that. They would always say, why do we pay him by the hour? Because he just takes forever to do it. And it's always more money than we plan on spending for the gardener. Why do we do this? So they started calling him molasses as a nickname, like the syrup that runs slow. So one day, the gardener came to the front door, I think to be paid. And I opened up the door and turned around and yelled to my mother, Mom, molasses is here, in front of him.
Oh, no.
And we didn't have a gardener after that.
Really?
Yeah, it was a bummer. But my parents were like just as well because he was so slow. They just never really addressed the problem.
That's amazing.
That's something I did. But one of the things that's fun about this topic is the contrast between what an adult understands about the context and what a child understands about the context. And clearly I didn't understand that wouldn't be perceived positively by the gardener. I just thought that's what we called them.
Yes. Yes. Which I like that there's some notes we have about why kids say things that are so inappropriate or just not right for the general adult population. Teighlor, what's your first story that you think of?
The one I think of is not actually that funny because it went pretty sourly.
Oh, no.
I think one of my sons was probably 3 at the time, and some people might be sensitive to certain things. So we all go see an adult friend, and he said, "Your hair looks funny." But it was because she'd styled it a different way than she normally does. And I don't think he meant funny because there was nothing funny about it. I think he meant to say different. But then there's this grown adult woman having a upset reaction like, "Oh, that is not okay."
Yeah.
And then everyone around us, there was this huge overreaction. And then I was feeding off of her overreaction. And I could have just said, "Oh, you didn't mean funny. You meant different. Her hair looks different today. Hush, it's different than you've seen." I made it really lighthearted. Or most of my adult friends would have joked him back. "I look funny. You look funny." Something like that. But instead I was like, "Oh my God, you need to apologize. That's not okay." And I did this overreaction and my husband overreacted. Everyone overreacted because of, and it was just, it went so south. And I was like, he didn't mean to be rude or offensive by any means. He was just commenting, "Oh, I've never seen you style your hair that way."
We had a situation that reminded me of that, which was my mom, as you both know, my mom was an identical twin, and they were very similar looking, such that the grandkids, our own kids, didn't know the difference between them.
Oh,
And I didn't when I was a child either.
whoa.
And so when one of them was around 3, we were at the beach and they were expecting my mom to come, but my aunt came. And one of my kids came running up to me and said, "Something's wrong with grandma." Meaning they noticed the difference between the two.
Oh.
And it was the first time they actually noticed the difference by looking.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really...
So, and the thing that was wrong with grandma is that it wasn't grandma.
So that is different than just plain using offensive words when I was very pregnant and my kids saying, "Mom, you're huge. Wow, look at that. So big." I'm like,
Right.
all right, guys, we don't need to comment on everyone's appearance all the time, do we?
Right. Exactly.
So my story plays into the kids that like to comment on body parts and poop and all the things.
Yeah.
So recently my daughter was jumping up and down on the bed naked or whatever. So she's like wondering, "What's that?" Pointing at herself. And I was like, I told her, "Oh, that's your vagina, whatever, move on, next subject." And then a few days later, my father-in-law is over and we're sitting together and she says to him, "Papa, you have a vagina like me?" And he goes, "Oh, Meredith?" And I said, "No, Papa doesn't have that, but that's okay. And we'll talk about something else. She's only 2. Let's just change the subject." And then she stops and does something else. And she comes back to my father-in-law, looks at him and really sincerely looks at him and goes, "Papa, don't worry. You get bigger. You have a vagina like me." Which kind of gave me a little laugh. You know how we say grow a pair? It was her way of saying, "You'll get bigger. You'll grow. Grow. Don't worry, Papa. You get bigger. You have a vagina like me."
So I think that you were talking about the body parts or the poop and pee category of kids saying things.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about why that would be. Why is that so funny or why is that so fascinating for the kids? And I think one comment I would make is obviously there's taboo.
Yeah.
So if they perceive that there's a topic we're not allowed to talk about, then talking about it is so fun.
Yes.
Or if you get a bad reaction. I know the 3 of us could easily deliver a bad reaction on something said in that category publicly.
Oh, yeah. Just reaction any way you swing it. There's this playful mischievousness to them in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the cognitive theory of humor, according to developmental psychologist Jean Piaget, that young kids go through stages of this development, right? And so they're developing, especially between the age 3 to 7, things that are that taboo or acceptable, not acceptable. So talking about these things breaks that norm. And they like that forbidden nature of these things is what makes them funny to kids.
Yeah. And even before age 3, where you see kids don't realize and have no awareness, even with the response, that was an inappropriate thing to say. But the child doesn't know the distinction. So learning that distinction. And then what's fun about that, Meredith, is then the idea that they would play with that distinction because it's forbidden. So I know it's wrong and I know there's right and wrong. but I'm going to say this thing that's a little edgy because it's forbidden, but I know about it. And so I'm going to dance around in that
I
category.
like to see how everyone reacts when I do this. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
My friend said that she's like, oh, my kid, they're at the stage of thinking potty humor is funny. And so I use it to get them to laugh in photos. I'm like, that's so brilliant. So I start teaching my kids who are younger than hers to say, poo-poo, pee-pee, whatever little noises around potty humor to get them to laugh in photos, not thinking I'm teaching them that this is a funny thing. So then they take it to their little school group and start teaching all the kids who are now younger than them.
Yeah.
I had several families come back to me. Guess what my kid said to someone today? And I can't even blame my kids because I taught it to them.
You
because
did.
I thought it was funny. And that is the downfall of most of our kids sharing too much is because I started it. And it was funny at this point to us. And then when they shared it to other children, now it's, it's not so funny.
That reminds me that you told me that you told your first son that every time you were drinking something you didn't want him to have, you told him it was just alcohol. And then he just started outing you everywhere that your favorite drink was alcohol.
Oh, yeah. So
Which
then he came
literally,
home.
yeah, the other day I'm sitting at the table and I just had a can of sparkling water. And my daughter looks at me and goes, Mama, you like your wine? Oh, this is happening to me now.
Mom's
That's
an alcoholic.
Tell them everything's spicy. You don't want
spicy.
it.
So now my daughter goes, when I be 3, I try it.
Spicy, I think, is smarter.
Many years ago, we asked our kids if they wanted to taste beer. And they said they already did when Grandpa babysat them.
Oh, I remember you telling us this. And your kids
And
were
I
young.
we were like, do you want to try it? See what it tastes like? They're 10 or something. And they're like, oh, no, we already know it's terrible. Because Grandpa gives it to us if we want it when he babysits.
That's not nice.
No.
Oh, Grandpa. I liked we were learning about the theories of humor, the one that broke down the neurological and emotional development, the laughter and the brain connection. I thought that was really interesting that it's linked to their brain developing. As children's brains grow, they begin to process humor more effectively, right? They laugh at things that are simple or absurd, like talking about body parts or poop, right? And they're really sensitive to these things, which I think is really interesting and also just so innocent and wonderful about them at the same time. People say when you have kids again, you get to play and act like a kid again. And fun. I still think talking about poop is funny. So I get to go back to that place. And I just really appreciate it.
So that's a perfect transition into a quiz. I really think so.
Are we ending the year on a quiz? This is what you're doing to us?
No, we have to because you talked about laughing.
Okay.
First question. The average 4-year-old laughs how many times a day? And the average 40-year-old laughs how many times a day? According to Psychology Today.
4-year-old, I'm going to say 40 times. And 40-year-old, I'll say once. Average?
Once a day on
okay,
average?
No, I'll say twice. I'll say twice on average.
Okay, so you said 4-year-old 40 and 40-year-old twice. Okay, Taylor, what do you got?
Okay. I think a 40-year-old laughs 4 times a day. And a 4-year-old laughs 20.
I think you're a little closer. You're right that on average, a 40-year-old laughs approximately 4 times a day. Okay. But you're both off on the 4-year-old. They laugh approximately 300 times a day.
Oh, I love
what? Well, that was interesting what you said about the brain mechanism, though, right? That makes very much sense. That one, they would have less worry about social approval, less constraints, more freedom, more creativity, right? And then that combined with the brain development, 300 times a day.
Dang.
So beautiful.
Okay, so let's do another one.
Okay.
At what age does a baby's laugh emerge on average?
5 months.
You got to give an answer.
5 months.
I'll go with 3. I'm trying to think how old my kid is. Let's say 3.
Okay, and the answer is 4 on average.
I saw the look on your face when I changed it, and I was like, maybe I should have kept it at 4.
Okay, so in the same vein of the laughing question, the average child smiles how many times a day? And the average adult smiles how many times a day?
I'm going to say adult 10 and child. Does the laughing smile count? Because then it's like at least 3.
This is a classic Taylor. You got to tear down the question.
I'm going to say
so that you can 350 on the child. What do you say, Taylor?
100.
100? Okay, so Meredith's got this one. Average child smiles 400 times a day. Average adult, 20.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I've got a tiebreaker question because I'm not sure where we are, but this is a tiebreaker question. The average woman smiles 62 times a day. How much does the average man smile?
44.
Us. 35.
You're closer. 8.
What?
I know.
What?
The average man,
That's sad.
men on average smile 8 times a day. Women on average smile 62 times a day. Yeah, it's a big difference.
That was really good. I actually enjoyed that quiz. It took me a few years and the ending of a year, but I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
I want to start paying attention to my kids more. Like, I think they laugh 20 times a day.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. I know.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
I actually like the question, Dr. K, that you proposed in learning about this. Why are children's speech so unfiltered when they talk? And just the joy in some of that sometimes it can be like just the English language. So I'll give you just a little story where the other day we're at dinner and my husband's trying to help my daughter finish. And she is like, why? And he tells her, I'm just trying to help you out. I'm just trying to help you out. She looks at him and goes, Dad, I don't want to get out. I want to stay in. It's completely just what it is right in front of you. Right, the other day I asked her, can you stand on one leg? She just picked up her other foot and literally stood on top of the other foot. And then I said, no, can you pick your leg up? So then she reached on and picked one of her legs up.
Yeah. So literal.
It was exactly as it was. And it's so honest. Why is their speech so unfiltered? There's nothing just blocking it. It's just so honest.
Yeah.
The honesty and the curiosity of them just is so right up front.
I have a story that's not exactly about what something said, but what a child did. So one of my children, one of my boys, was doing a physical for going into kindergarten. And I had 2 other kids with me. So I'm busy. And so the nurse goes, we have to do a urine test, but I'll just take care of him. And I was like, ooh, I think I should come along. This is kindergarten. Let me just help that to happen. And she's, no, Mom, we don't need any help. There's no reason. And I was like, okay. So I'm not so sure that this is good, but I just let them go. A few minutes later, she comes back laughing and says, I have a funny story for you. She said, I explained the entire process about how to do the urine test. And what your son did was put the urine cup in the middle of the floor of the bathroom and just shot for it. Just shot at it.
Some of it.
He got enough. And she said there's a little bit of a mess, but when I said you're going to shoot it into the cup, absolutely literal.
Oh my gosh.
But that's their development, right? That's where they're,
Yeah.
They say exactly what's on their mind. Things are very concrete, right?
Yes.
All of that. They lack the ability to predict how their words affect other things around them, right? You said to shoot it, so that's what we're doing.
Shoot for it. That's
Or
a
you
logical thing. With the boy that age, boys shoot for things.
Yeah. Or like you said, stand on the foot. So that's literally what I'm like, what do you mean?
I know, that's so funny.
Okay, so the reasons they say these things we're saying is partly due to them being pretty literal people. They're curious and honest. And then another reason is egocentrism. Okay, so what is that?
If you think about a child and what they're doing, all their play is their work, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So they're playing a game or singing a song or doing a task. It's all about learning that thing, coordinating, right? So if you do that operation all day long, you're likely going to think that it's all about you because you're not really in the early stages. And we could talk about Piaget and other theorists, but you're not necessarily as aware that other people are around. Even when the babies are small, they do parallel play. They don't play with each other. They just play next to each other. So I'm focusing on my play, my thing, what I'm doing. And so I think that egocentrism is that perspective, focusing on just how I see it. I'm not thinking about the mess you're going to clean up. That would be your perspective.
Right.
I'm thinking about my perspective, which is I got to do this task. I have to do this thing. Or I want to stay in. I don't want to go out because it's about me. So all the messages, when we hear them, are very focused on their experience, not on the experience or perspectives of other people. And this is later when we get into older stages and we start having things like conflict resolution and more complicated things. This is the first chance for them to get outside of their own perspective and see how that child didn't like what you said. They can start to think outside, but that's usually I think that perspective taking is around maybe 11 or 12 years old.
Most people think other people are more aware of them than they are. Everyone will see this hole in my pant. Everyone will see that I spilled this thing on me. And I feel like there's an element, everyone still thinks that to an extent.
Remember that high performance psychologist, Gervais, that we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
He talks about the fear of other people's opinions, the FOPO.
Yes.
It's like you develop FOPO when you're a kid. You're
Yes.
so free from that social anxiety.
Yeah, which is great.
So there's
Yes.
such a blessing and a small curse to it, because the world doesn't, you learn the world doesn't revolve around you, right? And there's
Right.
goodness to that. But they're just free from the anxiety of other people's
Yeah.
opinions.
Yeah,
But the
comes
curse
next?
spills on the mother, who has to stand there and go, oh, you just said to that man, why are you so fat?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do love the side of the curiosity and the freedom and not having the FOPO and just
Yes.
being able to be and experiment. Even with the standing on one leg, that's just fun.
I know. It's all experiments and play. I love it.
It's so good. So then when do we get the FOPO? We probably get it around 10 to 12, somewhere in there. We probably start worrying about what other people think. I love some of the examples of humorous speech that we discovered in our research. And one of the things that I find funny is the area where a child will reveal something that was secretly said.
This is going to be
Okay.
my
And
life.
this is a
Just
great category.
tomorrow,
So
I know.
and I remember many years ago, I was babysitting my friend's son because she had a medical thing she had to do. And so I said, just leave him at my house. I have kids in the house. He could just come and play. And he walked in. His mom had just left.
Around this time of year, right?
Yeah. And he looked up and down in my living room, kitchen, family room. And he said, wow, you really don't decorate, do you? And I thought, your mama said that to you. And you just repeated it because he wouldn't care about decorating. But, oh, we shouldn't be saying that to the free babysitter, should we? It's like the molasses story that I told you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
that's
a
such a good
secret.
one.
And you don't know that's not supposed to be said in this context.
Yeah.
We were making a thank you video for a birthday present. And at the end, he was like, and thank you for my present and coming to my party, even though you didn't invite me to your party. I was like, oh, you heard that, Doris?
You cut that out of the video. Oh, man.
I like that whole category where you're just either giving too much information, so TMI, or you're giving away a secret.
Are you going to tell us what to do here? Because I don't want any topic of conversation to be off the table with my kids. I feel very open and I always want to be honest with them. I do run into a problem with things like when they say, oh, we weren't invited to the party, or I already have this present. It's rude. How do we
That's
show
just
the
developmental,
balance?
though. I think there is a dance, right? I don't know. I'm not a parent expert. Dr. K, you can say. But some things that they do are just purely they're learning.
I'm not a parenting expert. I'm just a survivor.
And we're just clawing our way to survival right now.
The short answer to this, Taylor, is just get through it and then it'll be gone. So just outlap them, just the game of survivor.
That was one of my favorite pieces of advice you've ever given. Are we ending the year on just get through it and it'll be gone? Is that what we're doing? Happy 2024.
I love what you said about the idea that nothing's off the table. The part that I don't like about this topic is that we, in correcting our kids, sometimes stimulate FOPO. We stimulate this, you should care about, that made you look bad, that made me look bad. And I don't like that side of it. I think when we're parenting, we have to be careful to focus on their development, not our embarrassment.
Yeah.
So parenting's rough for a lot of reasons, right? Physically rough because you're sleep deprived and they spend your money and they embarrass you in public and you pay for this. I get that those things happen. I think when we get too focused on our embarrassment and off of their development is where I think you and I go wrong. This is someone who's trying to actually learn. So children are doing for decades experiments. I'm going to try this, see how that works out. And you find out in life not to do, and you find out some things that are really good to repeat. But there's a lot of hit and miss experimentation. And I think when you and I insert ourselves and the main priority is I was embarrassed, you made me look bad, I think we miss the parenting challenge there, which is you're going to look bad, but they've got to learn. And I don't want you to stop experimenting because I've taught you that embarrassment is more important than curiosity.
That's a good way to end the year right there, actually. That's even better.
And we want to stay curious. We laugh at these different things, but we're laughing at the fun of living, the fun of the experiment, the fun of the innocence.
Yeah. What was that show? Kids Say the Darndest Things. It's a hilarious show. That's enjoyable.
I was thinking about parenting and how do you parent this problem, so to speak. But I think that would be the view you wouldn't want to have. I think you'd want to say, no, this is the learning opportunity. And there might be a reason to say, hey, when you said that, so-and-so got their feelings hurt. So notice that you said you didn't like their gift and they were proud of bringing it to you. So there might be some social consequences for that. And you should know that happened. But a lot of this is honestly, we get embarrassed because they say the thing that maybe is true in the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
You really did say they don't decorate. Or you really did say they were slow at gardening.
Yeah,
No, I mean, that is...
They keep you accountable.
Yeah. My sister used to always say to me when I started having kids, she was like, now you have to lead an honest life. I mean, and she said, they're going to tell all your business all over town. They will tell everyone all the things. You brought over cookies and my mom didn't eat them and said these cookies are terrible. Your child's going to go over there and tell them that.
Oh, man.
So my sister used to just joke and just say, just live perfectly because they're going to say everything. It's going to get out, whatever you say.
Wow, we're ending the year being curious and also be perfect on that note. Anything else we talked about this year, scratch it. Just survive and get through it. And don't worry, though. A group will come back in 2025.
Thank you for listening. Thanks for following us along this journey. And we're trying to learn how to communicate and teach communication to those in our families, as well as friends. Share this podcast.
And you can check us out on YouTube and also most platforms.
So we want to remind everyone to catch up, go back and listen to episodes 34 through 39 that we did way back when. They're packed with things that you need to get you through the season. It's a family survival kit for the holidays.
Like we said, we're really excited to end this 2024 season with you, and we'll be back in 2025 to talk more about communication and relationships. Happy New Year, everyone.
Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.